It was our 5th wedding anniversary, and Sarah was adamant that we celebrate at Costello's, an overpriced Italian restaurant. I had hoped for something more meaningful, perhaps a trip to the small pizzeria where we had shared our first date, but she dismissed the idea without a second thought. We arrived at the restaurant, and Sarah was in a great mood, mostly because I had just landed a very lucrative contract. As usual, I made my way to the front counter to pay the bill, a habit I developed after my credit card was skimmed at a previous restaurant. On my way back to the table, I had to pass behind a divider where Sarah was seated with her Aunt Lisa. That's when I overheard their conversation. "Does Jake still think you love him?" Lisa asked, her words slightly slurred from the wine she'd been drinking. I froze in place, straining to catch every word. Sarah's voice was light and full of amusement. "Of course," she replied. "His credit is great, and he covers everything. Why would I leave?" They both laughed. Lisa mumbled something else, but I couldn't quite make it out. Sarah chuckled in response. "Well, Mom and Dad were right about one thing. Marrying a tradesman means he'll always be too busy to notice what I'm doing." I stood there, not shocked, but overwhelmed by an odd sense of clarity, as if all the quiet doubts I had been pushing away over the years had suddenly clicked into place. I returned to the table, sat down, and silently finished my drink while Sarah and Lisa continued their conversation, unaware that I had overheard them. Sarah went on, talking about her day, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. When we got home, she noticed I was quieter than usual but didn't press the matter. "I'm just tired," I muttered, mentioning I had a big project starting the next day. She nodded without much interest, relieved it wasn't about her. That night, I didn't sleep a wink. Instead, I formed a plan. First thing the next morning, I called my bank and credit card companies to have Sarah removed as an authorized user, citing suspicious activity. By noon, I had reached out to my attorney, my accountant, and my business partner. That evening, I moved half of our joint savings into my private account and froze the rest. Sarah didn't suspect anything that first day. She went about her usual routine, Pilates, brunch with friends, shopping, while I carried on with work, pretending nothing had changed. I kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, but felt oddly detached, as if I were playing a role that no longer held any real emotion. 2 days later, Sarah tried to use my American Express card to pay for a luxurious spa day with her friends, but it was declined. She tried another card, with the same result. Frustrated, she called me, her voice tight with barely contained anger. "There's something wrong with the cards," she said, feigning concern. "Really? That's strange. I just paid all the bills last week. What are you trying to buy?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "Just lunch," she lied. Meanwhile, a notification for a $900 spa charge popped up on my phone. "Could you call the bank?" she pressed. "I'm stuck in meetings all day," I replied calmly. "But I'll check tonight." There was a pause. She knew I was aware something wasn't right. Sarah had only a personal emergency card with a low limit, as she didn't have any income of her own. "Fine," she snapped before hanging up. 3 hours later, my phone buzzed incessantly with text after text from Sarah, demanding to know why our joint checking account had been frozen. I chose to disregard her calls, consumed by back-to-back meetings. By the time I wrapped up work, I had 27 missed calls and a voicemail from my lawyer confirming the initial divorce papers had been filed. I drove home, expecting an emotional confrontation, Sarah shouting, hurling accusations. But when I arrived, the house was unsettlingly quiet. The doorbell camera footage revealed she had left 2 hours earlier, lugging 3 suitcases directly to her parents' house. The next morning, Lisa called. I nearly ignored the call, but my curiosity got the best of me. "What did you do?" she demanded, her voice thick with emotion. I responded calmly, "What did Sarah tell you?" Lisa shot back. She said you lost it. You froze the accounts, cut off her cards, some kind of male midlife crisis. Her outrage sounded rehearsed, like she had defended Sarah 100 times before. I asked, my tone cold, "Did she mention anything about our anniversary dinner? Or your little chat at the table?" There was a long pause before Lisa let out a shaky breath. "You heard it all, didn't you, Jake?" she whispered. "We were just talking. Sometimes women say things they don't mean." I interrupted her, my voice sharp. "Spare me. The divorce papers are filed." If Sarah needs anything, she can speak to my attorney. You're making a huge mistake, Lisa said weakly, but the fight had drained from her voice. Sarah loves you. She's just complicated. No, I replied coolly. She's very simple once you understand what drives her. Give her the message. I ended, and thank you for clearing things up. Without another word, I hung up and immediately blocked both Lisa's and Sarah's numbers. As expected, things quickly escalated. Sarah's father reached out to my business partner, throwing threats and ultimatums, insisting he'd destroy my company unless I made amends. Soon after, a letter from a notorious, cutthroat divorce attorney landed on my desk, demanding the immediate restoration of Mrs. Harrison's lifestyle. Sarah even had a mutual acquaintance visit my office, attempting to guilt me into softening. None of it moved me. They had no idea how prepared I was for all of it. My lawyer responded with a mountain of evidence: Sarah's extravagant spending, her lack of financial contribution to our home and my business, and the secret transfers she had been making into her own accounts. From that point on, the tone shifted dramatically. Her attorney requested an in-person meeting downtown. The day when I finally saw Sarah again, she looked flawless, every detail in place, but her eyes were sharp and calculating, devoid of warmth. "This is unnecessary," she said flatly, refusing to make eye contact. "We can settle this privately." "I prefer having witnesses now," I replied, my voice steady. Her lawyer cleared his throat, trying to smooth things over. "My client is open to negotiating a settlement that reflects her contribution to your success," he said. Patricia, my unwavering lawyer, slid a prepared document across the sleek table. "My client has already outlined what he believes is fair, considering the relatively short duration of the marriage and the financial discrepancies we've documented. In fact, it's more than generous." Sarah snatched the paper, scanning it quickly, her disbelief turning into anger. "This is an insult," she hissed. 5 years of my life, and you offer me less than I had before I met you." I finally spoke directly to her, my tone calm. "Before we met, at least you had a career," I said, "and some self-respect from earning your own way. Maybe this is your chance to find that version of yourself again." She shot me a glare. "My connections built your business," she spat. I remained unfazed. "Actually," I replied, "I ran the numbers. Less than 8% of our clients came from your network, and they had the worst retention rates. But thanks for the concern." Her attorney leaned in, whispering urgently to her. Sarah shook her head vehemently. "We'll need time to review the offer," he said stiffly. "Of course," Patricia replied smoothly. "But before you go, you should be aware we have detailed records of Mrs. Harrison's spending habits, including some interesting charges from weekends when she claimed to be visiting family." Sarah's head snapped up, panic flashing in her eyes. "What are you implying?" I didn't respond. My lawyer had already pieced everything together. Weekend charges that matched social media posts showing her cozying up with a certain friend. "It means," I said as I gathered my things, "that dragging this out will be much more painful and public than accepting what's on the table." As I turned to leave, Sarah shouted after me, "You never would have met the Brightons or the Winstons without me. You think you built this all on your own." I turned back and locked eyes with her. "You know what's funny?" I said quietly. "I always gave you credit for believing in me. I thought you saw potential in who I could become. Now I see you were just investing, and you cashed out too early." 3 weeks later, Sarah signed the settlement agreement. She walked away with less than 15% of what we had, enough to get by if she was careful. I kept the house. I kept the business. Most importantly, I reclaimed my peace. The day after everything was finalized, I received a text from Lisa, using a new number. "You were smarter than the others. She misjudged you." I didn't need to ask who the others were. I simply replied, "No, her biggest mistake was thinking money was all I cared about." It's been 2 months now. The business is thriving more than ever. Clients now prefer working directly with me rather than through Sarah's curated network. Through the grapevine, I've heard Sarah is holed up in her parents' guest house, telling anyone who will listen that I had a breakdown and destroyed a perfect marriage. Maybe, in her mind, it was perfect. She got the life she wanted. All it cost was pretending to love me. But what Sarah never understood was this: I didn't build a thriving business by being sentimental or blind. I succeeded by noticing the details, reading the patterns, and knowing when it was time to cut my losses. I just wish I had done it sooner. Last week, I donated the last of her things to a women's shelter. As I handed over the final box, a volunteer asked if I might consider joining their fundraising committee. They needed help renovating the facilities. We're meeting for coffee next week to talk about it. Nothing fancy, just two people talking about something that actually matters. For the first time in years, I'm looking forward to a conversation that isn't about appearances, money, or social status. It turns out clarity has been the most expensive thing I've ever bought, and it's worth every penny.